No. Right ass lights. All right, we are back once again because there was a post on social media of Firepunk's Pro Mod on a hub dyno, and it just so happens they put in the injected quantity by weight in there. So they're injecting 400 milligrams, making almost 3,000 horsepower. Now, I don't know if they changed anything when it went to 3,000. 65, whatever it did. But on the post was 2,800 and something at 400 milligrams. So we're going to stick with what's on the post because they all go together. So I want to look at how efficient the Firepunk Pro Mod is. All right. I did this 02/22/24, so it's been quite a few days. This is the same day I did this, and I'm sick but feeling fine, but that's great. So Firepunk Pro Mod. So I have 2,877 horsepower at 4,712 RPM. That makes it produce 3,206.7 foot-pounds torque. And we had 3,339.7 foot-pounds torque at 4,388 RPM, which would make the horsepower 2,790.3. Just put here, there's only a 300 RPM split. So given this is nitrous, it's kind of weird, but let's just go out on a limb and say it's not maxed out yet. So usually I split that tight with stuff that flows this good. Usually means this isn't going to be the max number. It'll make, it can make more than that. I want to put the post in right here. Injected quantity, 400 milligrams per one injection event, and there's 6 injectors. How efficient is it? Now this is where stuff gets crazy. We just did the video on factory efficiencies, and from the factory we saw that they're around 220 to 206, 220 to 260 milligrams or grams kilowatt hour, and horsepower is like 180 grams horsepower hour. So how efficient is the Pro Mod on nitrous or any diesel? When you put on nitrous, given these aren't going to be your numbers, this is all done for the Pro Mod, right? But we know the quantity. It's 400 milligrams per one event. CCs. So CCs divided. These are just in thousands of one another. So grams to milligrams and CCs down. Grams to CCs equals the grams divided by 0.81 to 0.86. This is the density of the fuel. Grams to pounds, divide grams by 453.592. CCs to pounds, multiply the CCs by 0.001844. Say is their little conversion chart. So to find mm cubed for 400 milligrams, it's 4 milligrams divided by 0.84. Find mm cubed out of milligrams. It's 476.19 mm cubed is what this comes out to per one injection event. You do this a few ways to stay true to the OEM. Let's stay in weight. I think this is after stuff. So milligrams times number of injectors times 1/2 engine RPM times 60 divided by 1,000 grams hour. So this would be 400 times 6 times 1/2 4712 times 60 divided by 1,000. That gives us 339,264 grams hour divided by the horsepower, 117.92 grams horsepower hour, or 158.13 grams kilowatt hour, which is ridiculous. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's awesome. This is really crazy efficient. If you look at these, and generally speaking, you don't see these numbers without an oxidizer. Grams at peak torque. So we did the same thing, but we used the peak torque one. And it's not too much. Generally, this number is like way different when you do the math, but because there's only 300 RPMs between these, 300 RPM between these, I don't know if I can say it. The difference isn't as wild. So it comes out to 315,936 grams hour at an engine speed of 4388. Divided by the horsepower, because you put into a calculator torque, torque, RPM, horsepower. 113.22 grams horsepower hour, or 151.83 grams kilowatt hour. So it is more efficient at peak torque than it is at peak horsepower, just like it should be. Even though the horsepower number is less, the RPM is lower, so the injected fuel quantity is also lower. William engines on average are 180 grams horsepower hour flywheel, 220 grams kilowatt hour to 240 grams kilowatt hour flywheel normally. This thing is 118 to 113 grams horsepower hour tire, 158 to 151 grams kilowatt hour tire. And you kind of see how like ludicrous this is. So we're going to come over here and look at, so this is just the conversion for horsepower kilowatt hour. You take horsepower, multiply it by 0.7457, and that gives you the kilowatts. So that's what that is. Grams to pounds. So we already found the gram, so we don't need to kind of go right back in here and redo anything. Bit is 339,264 divided by 453.592, 747.949 pounds horsepower, or pounds hour of fuel, divided by horsepowers, 0.2599. So 0.2 tire brake specific efficiency. Given, again, generally, flywheel is 0.4. As we saw in the one dyno video, obviously at the tire they can get to 0.4, but from the factory, they're usually 0.37 flywheel and 0.4, 0.44 tire. So diesel stuff can be all over the freaking place. It's nuts. Like if you took these kind of efficiencies and applied it to like a methanol car, like the power output gets ridiculous when you look at like a turbo methanol car that makes 3,000 horsepower. And if you took the amount of fuel that they moved and divided, take the amount of fuel that they moved and multiplied it by this number, the horsepower output is way higher. So that's at peak horsepower, and then at peak torque, it's 696.52 pounds hour divided by horsepower. It's 0.24 at peak torque. Like ludicrous. If as far as my brain kind of works, you can't get below like 0.001, right? Out of what this is this is the amount of fuel worth what the work it can do being injected. So out of this mass, everything but, what would that be? Like everything but like 25% of it ish. That's probably the wrong way to do it. Is making power. That's probably a terrible way to put it. It's probably completely incorrect, but it's kind of a good way to put it, right? The closer you get to zero, the more power you make with the same amount of fuel. And this starts to get like really ludicrous looking when you think about the amount of fuel that like methanol cars move. And I understand why they have to move so much fuel and all that fun stuff, but I'm just saying how crazy diesel gets, because like a nitrous car engine, you still have to maintain an AFR on the nitrous car via injecting fuel with the nitrous. This is just straight nitrous. It just tanks the brake number down, 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 which means that without changing fuel quantity, your power level goes up, 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 up. speaking, it does that until bad things happen, or according to some, you basically cool the compression stroke so much that it doesn't fire correctly. Is this more? Yeah, so this is a verification chart right there we're going to look at real quick. Because that has, I believe this has the CCs in it, if you wanted to compare it to like a mechanical system with CCs. So I rerun through everything. Well, here's the CCs. This would be the equivalent of a mechanical system. So a P pump VE VP44 with an injection pump that, after taking into account the injector as a restriction, the system would calibrate per one plunger to 1121 cc's, or 22.9. So to do the equivalent of what this truck does, you'd have to match its injection pressure, and while matching its injection pressure, you need to move 1121.9 cc's per cylinder through the system. You can kind of see where this kind of gets kind of wild. It gets not necessarily hard to do, but the injection pumps get big, because you would also, the next catch 22, have to do that in the same crank degrees window. That is where it gets hard, and that's where the injection pumps get massive. So mm cubed to pounds, 476.1 mm cubed times 6 times 1/2 engine RPM times 60 divided by 1,000 for cc's. cc's times 0.001844, 744.62 pounds. Go back over here. Yeah, 747.949 pounds, right? So the only difference that we're coming up with here is the variables, the fuel density. So you can do this with cubed only, or you can do it with milligrams. It's not very often you find anything in the US rated in the aftermarket milligrams. It's pretty much all rated in cubed. Milligrams is big in other countries. So when you listen to any YouTube videos about them changing from 80 milligrams to 100 milligrams, it's not gibberish. It's just nomenclature that we don't generally hear over here. We usually hear cubed. But if you want to convert cubed to milligrams, instead of milligrams divided by 0.84, just take cubed times 0.84, and that moves you, or technically it's 0.81 to 0.86. Depends on the temperature of the fuel, yada yada yada, composition. Let's use 0.84. Keep it easy. You just take your 476.1 times 0.84, and then you have milligrams. So it's a very easy conversion. 747.949 the first way, which was the milligrams way, 744.62 this way. Just to make it super clear, this brake efficiency is crazy. Yep, again, the OEM engines play in the 0.4 wheel range. The nitrous is the main contribution to driving the efficiency number, I should say, this low. So what the oxidizer is doing in diesel combustion is it's accelerating the combustion event a extreme degree. So if you're ever curious about how oxygenating a combustion chamber works, you can look up a lot of videos on people dipping things that don't burn into liquid oxygen and things that burn poorly into liquid oxygen, and watch how much faster they burn. The main problem with diesel fuel as a type is it's a very slow burning fuel. It's on, I think can't remember if it's 30% faster or 30% slower than methanol. It's very near methanol burn speed, which is a problem for performance applications. But you can take an oxidizer, oxidize the combustion chamber, and kick the flame front in his butt, and it will haul the mail, as we see right here. I really want to figure out what I did with this 100. I feel like it's supposed to say 1,000. 400 times 1/2 engine RPM is 942,400 divided by 100. 942.4 grams. Maybe because we're going milligrams to grams. I'm pretty sure it's 1,000. I think this is supposed to have an extra zero on it. Okay, now to solve this one. This is supposed to be another zero. Another zero. So it's milligrams times 1/2 engine RPM. It's 942,400 milligrams divided by 1,000, 942.4 grams divided by 0.84. We're working in minutes, so there's no 60. It's 1,102, 1,121.9 cc's. Okay, I got this figured out. It's 400 milligrams times 1/2 engine RPM. 942,400 divided by 1,000 to go from milligrams to grams. Remember, there's no 60 because we're not working an hour yet. We're working a minute. 942.4 grams. Then you're going to divide that by 0.84 to convert it to cc's. It's 1,121.9 cc's. Right per one hole injector, and times 6 injectors times 60 times 0.001844 will give you 744.76 pounds hour. Divide by 60 to find pounds minute, 12.41 pounds minute, or just don't multiply it by 60 up there. You can do that right here. I'll quick show you. I'm not going to do this part because I can't remember what the 1/2 engine RPM part was. I had it in a photo. So times 6 times 60 times 0.0084 to 744.76 pounds hour. And you can use this if you don't know the other stuff, or you can use this to double check the other stuff to make sure it's all correct, because you should come out in the wheelhouse of the same numbers any which way you do it, because the only variable is going to be this density number. So this is like a really good way to kind of check the system and check your math on your other stuff to make sure you're doing it right, as if you use the other means to do it. You should get the same thing. I said it's very straightforward. The metric side of things is really easy, or whatever the heck it's called. It's all in hundreds, thousands, just decimal placement movements. So this car is wildly efficient. So I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that the Nitrous Pro Mod engine is extremely efficient. I don't know if there are any mechanical setups that are getting into that area. Maybe there might be a few that are on nitrous that are getting close to there, but those are really efficient numbers. The only thing, this is complete speculation, so it's just an opinion. But if you are at this point, if you start getting near, bad things seem to occur when you get close to 0.2 on the brake number. I don't really have like a whole thing as to why. I mean, I kind of do. My personal opinion is that the flame speed inside the combustion chambers is getting out of control. But it's an opinion. There's no like measured basis on this system other than whenever diesel engines on oxidizer start to get near these really dumb efficiency numbers, they tend to come apart. I know that in a post, or I think a reply back on a YouTube video, Levon or one of them said that when they were measuring cylinder pressure on nitrous, and cylinder pressure on fuel only at the same horsepower output. I'm gonna have to say same engine speed, or maybe not. But I would have to say probably same engine speed as well. The cylinder pressure measured the same, which kind of makes you and then because you're looking for this like holy grail like knife to say I figured this out, and that kind of, once you think about it, you're like, oh well, yeah, that makes sense, because the measure of power output is a measure of cylinder pressure. So regardless of how the power output is made, if the bore size is the same, chamber is the same, engine speed's the same, then the cylinder pressure kind of has to be the same, right? So that kind of like threw a nail in that one. Not a nail, but a curveball when you get close to figuring something out, or you think you're figuring it out, and then you find that, and you're like, well, that actually makes a lot of sense, so that's probably not going to work out. But I said, if you're playing with nitrous on diesels, I do, my personal opinion, if you know or at least have the semblance to do some of this stuff, if you are nearing anything under 0.3, that's where stuff seems to become hypercritical, that the tune-up and everything is dead nuts. And then as you get closer, they just seem to explode once they get like too close to 0.2. I said I don't have like any sensor data or anything, just me using other people's information that's been put out there on the internet, and then engines fail, and sometimes you can hear back little pieces, snippets about how the engine failed, what caused it to fail. I'd like to try and look at everything as though there's a general reason for the issue existing, because there are other types of applications in competition forms that may not have that exact same problem. It's like a lot of the issues faced with say nitrous diesel applications on fuel only applications making the same power, if not far more power, don't have the problem. And they have way less crazy ideas going on, trying to keep cam gears from breaking and all this other stuff going on. It kind of makes you wonder if there's some kind of weird stuff going on with the combustion process that's causing really high shock loading to the gear train and stuff like that. So just stuff to think about. It's stuff I think about all the time. A lot of this last part's all opinion, but I think it's really cool. The main thing that you can use this for is to make sure that the thing is making the power it should make. If the number's way high, if Firepunk was on the dyno and they made 3,000 horsepower with whatever fuel quantity and it came out to 0.5, that thing's gonna, they're either gonna look at something's wrong with the tune-up, something's wrong with the injector, or the AFR is too low. They're gonna hit with more, like there's a bunch of stuff you can, like, okay. Or on the vice versa, you can look at it, all right, we're at like 0.25. It's looking pretty good. Maybe it's time we increase. Maybe we need to increase fuel quantity again before we step the nitrous up. Stuff like that to try and maintain a brake number that maybe potentially helps the motor stay alive. This is purely opinion, not telling anybody how to do anything. I just think it's a whole heck of a lot of fun. The mechanical stuff is a lot of guessing. Hopefully I get to kind of help change that a little bit, but mechanical stuff is a lot of guessing. Common rail systems and Huey systems, theoretically, we know injection pressure and we know injector mass or volume, because most stuff's mm cubed, or if it's in grams, and we know mass. So it's a lot of fun, other than it's really expensive. So I don't have one, so I get to look at other people's stuff. I think that's everything. I hope you guys had fun with this one. this car is awesome. It set a bunch of records. It's super fast. I think that's it. Have a good one. Bye.